Hi, welcome back and welcome to my channel Tech Krish. So today I am going to discuss conditional statements in Python. So what a condition is, we should know about because condition when suppose one example I am going to quote in school when we appear at exam. So there is a probability of whether we can pass or fail. So if you did good or performed well in examination, then you'll become pass. Otherwise, you may be fail. So there are certain criteria in which we can gauge the student. We can check the student. So this word check is basically condition. So the criteria is if the student is scored, if the student scores more than the 33% or 50%, whatever criteria school decides, and if the student does not fulfill the requirement of passing criteria, then he might fail. Means you have to check whether it qualifies the criteria or does not qualify the criteria. In Python or in any programming language, such kind of uh, conditions or such kind of statements we used to have to check whether it is like this or not like this. So if it is like this, means this is positive, and if it is not like this is negative. So we are going to discuss this conditional statement in Python. So let's move to our presentation. So see here, going to discuss the condition. So conditional statements in Python. So what a condition is? A condition is a logical expression which evaluates to either true or false. Such an expression is also called the Boolean expression. Boolean, as you know, Boolean means either 0 or 1. This is the mathematics based on 0 and 1, and it is used in computing or computer circuitry to evaluate true or false. Similarly, in programming, these statement like expressions can also be used to gauge whether the values are or the statements are true or false. A term to form a condition in general, we have to compare two values. Python provides some operators which we call the relational operators and some logical operators also. So we also call them the comparison operators to compare two values. So what are those operators? We are going to discuss here, and this is the basics when a student jumps into or dives into the computer world and try to learn Python programming. So we'll have a list of relational operators. So if you look at this table, you will see there is a first operator that is called equality. This compares two values for equality and returns true if the values are equal and returns false otherwise. For example, 2 equality sign and 2 will return true. 2 is equal to 2 will return true. And when we use exclamatory sign along with the equal sign, this is called not equal. Compares two values for inequality. Returns true if two values are not equal. Otherwise, it returns false. For example, 2 is not equal to 2. It returns false because 2 is equal to 2, and I am going to check whether 2 is not equal to 2. So this is false. Less than sign. If you look at the less than sign, compares two values and it returns the first value when it is less than the second value. So if I say 2 less than 1, it will return false, and if I say 1 less than 2, it returns true. Now less than equals to means whether the first value is less or equal to the second value. Compares two values returns true if first value is less than or equal to the second, otherwise it returns false. For example, 2 less than equals to 1, it returns false because neither it is less or equal. The next one is greater than, means if the first value is greater than the second value. It compares two values. So compares two values, returns the first returns true if the first value is greater than the second. Otherwise it returns false. For example, 2 greater than 1. So here 2 is greater than 1, and that is why it will return true. Otherwise it returns false. Now the next relational operator is greater than equals to. So compares two values. If the first value is greater than equal to the second value, then it will return false. It will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. For example, 2 greater than equals to 2. Since 2 is equal to 2, but not greater than, it is satisfying the condition, and that is why it returns true. Correct? And the values to be compared using relational operators must be comparable. Two values are comparable if both are numbers, float, or the strings. A number cannot be compared with the string or the character. These are also some more cases of comparable values. These values will be discussed as and when required. Okay, so we cannot compare strings and numbers, but somewhere or in some junctures we can use such values. Then we have to use some other uh, techniques also to compare those values. As far as strings are concerned, two strings are compared character by character using Unicode values of corresponding characters. The 256 characters in AISSCE characters set have been so accommodated in Unicode table. So what is AISSCE? This is American Standard Code for Information Exchange. So there are 256 characters. Out of this series, we have all the characters we are using on keyboard or in our computer programming. Correct? So therefore, for all practical purposes in our syllabus, we can assume that characters are compared using the AISSCE values. AISSCE values of some frequently used characters are given in the following table. So see here. So the first character, that is the blank space, is AISSCE character or corresponding Unicode character is 32. Uppercase Latin alphabets A to Z, the AISSCE value or the Unicode value is 65 for A, and 66 for B, and so on till 90 as Z. Similarly, in lowercase Latin alphabets A to Z, it starts from in ASCII 97 to 122, that is the last, means the character Z is small z, so its Unicode or ASCII code is 122. For digits 0 to 9, 48 is for 0, 49 is for 1, so till it goes till 57, that is the digit 9. So we are going to compare some strings also. For example, if I compare capital A less than B, because ASCII value of A is less than ASCII value of B, because A is the 65 in ASCII or Unicode and B is 66 in ASCII or Unicode. So 65 is less than 66, and that is why A is less than B. But when we say capital A is less than small a, means capital A ASCII code is ASCII value is 65 and small a the ASCII value is 97. So obviously capital A is less than small a. A greater than 0, because ASCII value of A is greater than the ASCII value of 0. ASCII value of 0 is 48 and ASCII value of capital A is 65. So 65 is greater than 0. Is space less than 0? Of course, space is less than 0 because ASCII value of space is 32 and ASCII value of 0 is 48, and that is why it is space is less than 0. Then we compare some more examples, taking more examples, like if I have assumed like string 1 is great, the word great in string 2 is great work, and string 3 is gratitude, then I print string 1 is greater than string 2. Whether string 1 is greater than string 2, so if you look at G is greater than equal to, R is greater than equal to, E is greater than equal to, and T is also greater than equal to, then string 1 ends here, but string 2 continues, so greater string 1 is not greater than string 2. Similarly, if you look at string 1 is greater than string 2, string 3, so string 3, because when we compare string 1 to string 3, G is greater than equals to, R is greater than equals to, but E is not, E is greater than equals to A, and that is why string 1 is greater than equal to string 3, and string 3 is greater than graceful. So greater than graceful, how come? String 3 is G is greater than equal, means equal, R again equal, but E is a smaller, so here this is not true. So the output should be like this. So if you look at string 1 is greater than string 2, it falls because greater the word string 1 is, if you look at the length of the great string 1, it is only 5, whereas the length of great work is more than 5, and that is why this condition becomes false. And when we talk about string 1 greater than string 3, string 1 greater than string 3, yes, why? Because up till gr both the strings are same, but from the third character the ASCII value of E is greater than the ASCII value of A, and that is why this string 2, string 1 is greater than string 2. sorry, I was discussing this. String 1 is greater than string 3. So string 3, because up till R both the strings are equal, but from the third character E is greater than capital A. Why? Because the ASCII value or Unicode value of E is greater than the Unicode value of A, and that is why string 1 is greater than string 3, and that is why this is true. Similarly, here string 3 is greater than graceful. So what is string 3? String 3 is gratitude, and gratitude is greater than graceful is true. Why? Because up till gr, both these strings are carrying equal values. But as soon as we reach the third character, so E is greater than A. Why? The ASCII value of E is greater than the ASCII value of A, and that is why string 3 is greater than graceful. So this returns the true value. So this is how strings are compared. Correct? So this is just the beginning how we can compare numbers, how we can compare strings. So in the case of strings, we use ASCII values or Unicode values, and also we are using the relational operators to compare the conditions. So this is just the beginning. We'll discuss more in our next video. Till then, bye bye.